first arrived in Quito, we took a bus through the mountains to Camp Bellevue and stayed there for 4 days. While at Camp Bellevue, we helped build a prayer walk for the residents there. We also helped build a kitchen for a poor family up in the mountains.
Playing with the children has done a lot. They just have simple joy in everything that they do. And like playing with bubbles or balloons, it just excites them, and that just brings joy to my heart to watch.
The second day we were at Camp Bellevue, we decided to climb a mountain that was 15,000 feet above sea level. After we climbed the mountain, it was just amazing to see the view, and it was so beautiful there. Everything is so colorful in Ecuador.
We've seen God at work in many ways during the 2 weeks we've been here. And oddly enough, one of the ways we've seen God at work is in a major accident. The short version of the story is we were coming down a gravel road in a Range Rover. We lost first gear, and then we lost the brakes. And the driver started to use the emergency brake to slow us down, but it wasn't enough, and the car flipped. There were 7 people in the vehicle, and the car rolled about 2.5 times from what we can figure and landed on its roof. And it crushed the vehicle considerably. The interesting part is that when you look at the vehicle and see the condition it was in, it's hard to explain how we escaped with such few injuries. There were some bumps and some bruises, but nothing serious. So we're just grateful to God that He protected us through that, and we saw Him at work in that accident.
One thing that really stuck out to me when we were messing around with the kids afterwards is how much joy they could find in things that we as children probably would have blown off right away. Like, we would blow bubbles for them or something to get them to come over to where we were going to do our skit, and they would just like, their faces would light up and they'd just come running and screaming over to us to come and pop the bubbles, because who knows if they've ever even seen bubbles before. It was so fascinating to them.
One of the missionaries took me aside and said the children are always excited to spend time with the American groups. But what impressed her was that our group, especially our teens, had the same desire to be with the children. The children would scream, "Ummy, Ummy!" And our kids, so tired from full days of work, made those kids feel like they were their world.
The dedication of the missionaries and their focus, and just how, you know, they work so hard every day, but no matter what they're doing and no matter what that work is, they remember the reason that they're doing it for, and that is to bring these people to know Christ. And I just came back inspired to bring that attitude into my service.
After 4 days at Camp Bellevue, we took a fun day at Chachambiro, a hot spring resort. And then after the fun day, we headed towards the jungle. Following the fun day, we drove 5 hours in a bus and then ended up in a canoe for about 3 hours until we arrived at Kumani. While in the jungle, we went to surrounding villages to build swing sets and do our VBS activities for the kids.
We were at a lady's house, or not much of a house. We were actually building her a kitchen because she never really had one. And anyways, we were working, and we were getting there expecting to work our tails off or whatever. And sure enough, we start, and then we end up having to take breaks and everything. But I noticed that there was a few Ecuadorians helping us, and they worked literally for 2 hours straight without taking a single break.
They work so hard. I've seen so many people down there, but their bodies are just broken and deformed because they've worked so hard their entire lives, and they still have absolutely nothing. They've worked for their families, they've worked for themselves, probably worked for other people, and I've hardly worked at all in my entire 16 years, and I have so much that I think it gave me a new passion to put hard work into even the little things.
Charla Markham would have devos with us, and she is just so inspirational, and that made a huge impact on my life because she knew what to say to us make us really think about our faith in God and how we saw other things in life.
I think in the unconditional love from the people that we're constantly surrounded with, not only the kids that we play with and the kids that we're teaching every day, but also the people that will graciously just lend a hand in all of the help in building the swing sets and just building things in general.
One thing that impacted me was the people were actually very kind and receptive to us, even if they didn't seem to be. There was one girl when we were at Little Tiger that asked her name, and she said it was Myra, and then she just kind of drifted away. And when I asked her if she wanted to play with us, it just melted, and she was beaming at me, and she came over and played with us, and it was just really cool to see that, like, even though she didn't seem like she cared or that we weren't making an impression, you could tell that we were still touching their hearts and that God was still working. So, I don't know, that was just really cool to see that, like, it may seem like there's too much to do, there's not enough people doing it, that we're not making a difference, but you really are, even if you can't see it, and God is still working, and that's what's most important.
There was a moment in Kumani that was really super uncomfortable, but yet very moving. We were having a Devo with some of the women from the kitchen, and Sarah Anderson suggested that we read a verse. And Charla had Sarah read it in English, and then she had the woman read it in Spanish from her Spanish Bible that had just been given to her. And the woman had to stop reading because the word was affecting her so deeply. And I found that really interesting. Charla stopped and just said that they believe that those words are speaking, that God is speaking to them right at that moment in that time frame. And it had moved her so much, what she was reading, that she had to stop because it physically had touched her. And I just thought that is such a great lesson for me, because I've had this book my whole life, and seen somebody who hasn't, and the effect that has and the power that book has was just very moving to watch.
Charla Markham gave a devotional, and she talked about the different ways that people define themselves. And so when we die, those things are lost, and they don't matter to us anymore. So a lot of the ladies along the Caiaphas River have already lost a lot of those things. So all they have is Jesus, and so they cling to him, and he is their delight. And it was so refreshing, because when they served him, they didn't serve him because they felt like they needed to be saved. They rejoiced in him because they were saved, and just watching them and seeing them was very beautiful.
After 4 days in the jungle with the medical mission, we came home and kept memories that will last us a lifetime.